going to ask you for direct, inverse, and joint variation problems. So you can see a little typo on your note sheet. For each of these problems, I'm going to ask you to clearly label 4 steps. If you do it this way, you will make fewer mistakes and you will earn all of your points. If you skip any one of these steps, that's when you start getting into trouble. Okay, so the first step is to write the general form for the equation. This is going to be the 3 equations that we talked about on the front. For direct variation, you're going to say y equals k times x. Inverse variation, you're either going to say x times y equals k or y equals k divided by x. And joint variation, you're going to say y equals k times x times z. Okay, for step 2, you're going to plug in the values that they give you to solve for k. Step 3, you're going to create the equation that relates the variables with k plugged in. This is the step where usually people mess up. Let me really make that step clear. When they ask you to create the equation that relates the variables, they are not asking for the general form of the equation. They're asking you for the one that's specific to this problem with the k that you just found in step 2. The last step is just to solve for what they're asking you to find. This could be either of the variables, and you're going to just use the equation that you created in step 3 to do this. Alright, so let's go ahead and try the first one. It says that C and D vary directly, which means I'm going to start by writing out the equation for direct variation. Since it's C and D, I'm going to write it as C equals K times D. And I will actually label my steps, each one, step 1 through 4, so you can see what I'm doing. So first step, C equals K times D. Alright, the second step is to plug in the values that they gave me to solve for K. So it says if C equals 6 and D equals 18, find K and the equation that relates the variables. So plug in C is 6, D is 18. I have to do a little bit of solving here for k, so I'm going to divide by 18 on both sides. 6 over 18 reduces to 1 over 3, so I get that k is 1 over 3. Alright, the next step is the one that I keep warning you about. People mess up. So for step 3, you're just going to plug in k. C equals 1/3 d in this problem. I took the equation from step 1, combined it with the k from step 2, that's what gives me step 3. Alright, the last step is to solve for what they're asking you to find. So the last sentence says, if C equals 9, find D. So I'm just going to set up 9 equals 1/3 D. I'll multiply by 3 on both sides to clear out the 1/3. And I end up 9 times 3, 27 equals D. On your quiz, there will be a box similar to the one that I gave you on the right. You need to write down each of those things. So K was 1/3. The equation that they're asking for was the one from step 3, C equals 1/3 D. And then D, what we found in the last step, was 27. Okay, B reminds us that x and y vary inversely. So now this one, I'm going to start off a little bit different. Inverse variation, I'm going to start with x times y equals k. The reason that I start this way is because that way I don't have to worry about which one I want to put in the denominator, which one needs to go in the denominator. If you'd rather, you can start with y equals k over x or x equals k over y. I don't like to have to worry about what goes where when I don't have to. Alright, step 2 is to plug in the variables that they give you to solve for k. So it says if y equals 6 and x equals 1.5, find k. So 1.5 is x, and y is 6, and I'm going to use those to find k. 1.5 times 6 is 9, so now I know that k equals 9. Alright, time for the key step. The equation that relates the variables is the first step with k plugged in. So x times y equals 9. You can write it like that. You can write it as a fraction. It doesn't matter. Alright, step 4 is to find what they're asking you to find. So if x equals 4 over 3, find y. For this step, it might be easier to write it as a fraction. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to plug it in just like I've been showing you. So 4 over 3 times y equals 9. And I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, 3 over 4, to clear out the fraction. So 9 times 3 is 27 over 4. That doesn't reduce, so I'll just leave it a fraction. Y is 27 over 4. Okay, the last problem is a little bit different. It's more of a challenge to set up, but they're asking you to find less things. So it says the volume of a geometric figure varies jointly with the square of the radius of the base and the height. Okay, so the hard part about this one is setting up the equation. The volume is what's doing the varying. So V equals K, and it's varying jointly, so I know I'm going to have at least 2 more variables, with the square of the radius, so radius squared, of the base, and the height. So radius squared times height. The radius of the base is just telling us a little bit more about the figure. Okay, so I've come up with the equation volume equals K times R squared times H. Now they say if V equals 63.33 and R is 2.4 and H is 10.5, what is K? So all I have to do is plug in 63.33 equals K times 2.4 squared times 10.5. Use your calculator. When you do 2.4 squared times 10.5, you should get about 60.48. So 60.48K equals 63.33, and I'll divide by that 60.48, and then you get K is 1.05. And that was all that they asked you to find on this one. Alright, so if any of these notes went a little bit too fast for you or too slow, I did post this video on Schoology so you can watch it again if you would like to. I also posted my filled out version of the notes that I wrote in handwriting that's much neater than this one. So if you need any more help on this, please feel free to come into math tutoring, come in and see me in the morning as always, and I will try to do my best to go over more of it tomorrow if you guys have more questions. Go ahead and start your homework. See you tomorrow.